When I started making Hajime no Ippo content, I had no idea what people thought of season 2 and 3. So when I found out that people actually liked these seasons, it caught me by surprise. Not because I thought that these seasons are weaker than season 1, but because a lot of the time when an anime releases some new seasons and they make a lot of changes, people are always going to say the original is better. It's just how they are. So how is it that 9 years after the Hajime no Ippo anime was released, a season came out that contains one of the most beloved fights in the series? Let's talk about why everyone loves Takamura versus Hawk. So we first start to dislike this guy back in episode 15 of A New Challenger, actually one of the longer fight buildups that I remember, as this fight doesn't take place for about 5 more episodes after this. We are informed that Brian Hawk does not train and he has become the world champion based off of pure talent. We're then informed that once he heard his next opponent is going to be Japanese, he immediately hung up the phone and decided not to train. This makes most of the main characters mad, and despite you or me probably not being Japanese, this probably made us a little mad too, because how are you going to disrespect Japanese boxers when we have seen elite level boxers such as Ippo? Fast forward a little bit, Brian Hawk is asked what's his favorite food in Japan because he said he likes the delicacies, and he responds by saying the woman. He likes the Oriental woman. So this guy is pretty much racist and misogynist, and then he catches Takamura's punch. And at this point, this guy is literally just a villain that no one can stop. He's speaking recklessly and he does what he wants. I mean, just look at what happens after he catches Takamura's punch. We then get a reminder of why everyone admires Takamura so much, him being the reason for Kimura, Aoki, as well as Ippo all to start boxing. And while these characters are reminding themselves of why they admire Takamura and want him to win, they are also acknowledging the fact that Takamura possibly could lose to this guy. Despite him being very disrespectful, he is still a very accomplished boxer, and we have no idea which direction Hajime no Ippo chooses to lean in terms of side characters winning or losing. I mean, look at Kimura versus Mashiba. That is why I believe this scene is such an important reminder of why we like Takamura and why he could possibly lose. Ippo, Kimura, and Aoki then go to Takamura's house to ask him why he started boxing. I don't know why they did this, considering Ippo literally found out why Takamura started boxing way earlier in the series, but I guess he forgot. They go to his house and they see his sister there. We then see a conversation between the main characters and Takamura's family, and this is when you should start to realize that really we don't know much about Takamura. Yes, we know that he used to be a thug and Kamigawa whipped him into shape and taught him how to be a boxer, but the cut and dry explanation of why he started boxing earlier in the series, where he told Ippo that he just wanted to hear the crowd chant for him and he wanted to be a star, is not actually the truth, as we see Takamura has impossible burden set upon him by his successful family. Nearly 100 episodes in the series and we still did not know what motivated Takamura. We didn't know why he worked so hard. This is where we find out that Takamura's future is pretty much guaranteed for him on a silver platter, but he turns all of that down just to be successful by his own standards. We then get to see a beautiful scene where Takamura says that boxing is his life and he fights to protect the place that he lives. Episode 18, we get to see Aoki willing to shave his eyebrows to look more like Brian Hawk. Just a subtle reminder of how much these characters actually care for each other at this point. That's a lot of what this episode is about. A reminder that Hajime no Ippo is not just a boxing anime, but it's more about family and spending time with your friends. Especially when we get to see Takamura's conversation with Kamigawa. Kamigawa is reminiscing about when he met Takamura for the first time, and he said, "This man will take me to the stage I have always dreamed of." We then get to see some of the best writing in the entire series when we see Kamigawa have to deal with the fact that he has never coached a world champion fighter and he feels like he can't help him be at the level he should be. But we do see Takamura say it doesn't matter because without the coach he would have never started boxing in the first place. I think this scene definitely hits a little harder after you watch the war arc at the end of Hajime no Ippo, but even here it serves as a great build up for the fight. And then we get to see Takamura struggle with trying to cut weight. This is one of the more disturbing scenes in all of Hajime no Ippo, yet it still manages to stay relatively realistic as we see Takamura struggling with the fact that he cannot drink water, as well as other things such as irritability and the fact his sister made him food and he had to pour it down the sink because of the extreme conditioning. Now, after seeing all of this, we see Takamura just thinking about what Hawk is going through right now. The fact that he doesn't even care about this fight. He's not training, he's spending time with women, and Takamura is reflecting upon his entire life and cutting weight to a dangerous level. In episode 19, when Takamura is faced with a public sparring match, we get to see how defeated he truly is because of his weight cut, as he is putting in no pain against this random NPC. And still, after all this disrespect we see from Hawk, after Takamura makes weight after struggling relentlessly, Hawk goes to shake his hand only to juke him out despite Takamura actually accepting this handshake. Now, Hawk to this point was borderline irredeemable, but this is one of the most messed up things he has done. But what does the irrational, emotional Takamura do? He just walks right away. He don't want no smoke, he just walks away. He's gonna speak business in the ring, that's all that matters. We then see a press conference going on between Hawk and Takamura, and Hawk is being extremely disrespectful. He even punches Takamura in the face, but that's not what's crazy here. What's crazy is that he slapped the coach. You don't slap the coach, man. No one disrespects the old heads in the show except for Hawk. If you somehow don't already hate this guy, he then says he wants to spread his seed to the entirety of Japan so that they can have world champions all over the place. And by the way, I don't know why this guy acts like he's completely untouchable. He's 150 pounds. You would expect this from like the highest weight class, but this dude is too light to be acting like his DNA is so insane. Takamura then tells Ippo warm up the crowd with his fight, and that's exactly what he does. And I know us, the viewers, are not necessarily the crowd, but I really do think that this fight kind of works as a pregame for Takamura's fight. I mean, this is one of the quickest knockouts Ippo has ever gotten. And yes, it's definitely cool watching the back and forth fights such as Ippo versus Sendo and Ippo versus Date, but a quick fight like this every now and again definitely switches it up and leads for a pretty hype moment. As if it couldn't get any more hype, after Ippo goes to tell Takamura that he kept his promise of getting a first round knockout before his fight, we see that pretty much every Japanese champion is there supporting Takamura, just drilling in the fact that all of Japan wants him to win. And then finally we see all of the members of the gym, you know, wish Takamura good luck, sending him out there. And I know what you're thinking, why have you spent so much time of this video talking about the build up to this fight? And it is because I truly think the reason everyone likes this fight so much is the buildup. This fight easily has one of the best buildups in the entire series. We see multiple episodes of reasons why we want Takamura to win this fight and reasons why he may not win this fight. Honestly, I think Hajime no Ippo did an amazing job of making us feel like a side character. I'm not even from Japan, but I wanted Takamura to go up out there and teach him a lesson for disrespecting Japan. I felt like Kimura or something. So now let's talk about the fight, but before I do that, please consider subscribing if you have not already. We are so close to 3K, and based off what you've seen so far, if you think I deserve more than 3K, then drop a subscription to help me hit that number. I would really appreciate it. So the fight starts and you have Hawk utilizing a style that is very reminiscent of Prince Nassim, but the main difference here is that Hawk's style is not very realistic. Yes, he is able to throw punches from weird positions, that makes perfect sense, but some of his positions are so compromising that it really doesn't make for a very realistic boxing match. Which is the first reason why I think a lot of people like this match a lot, because Hajime no Ippo has been known to stay pretty realistic when it comes to the matches. They kind of threw all that out of the window with this fight and just decided to make it as entertaining as possible. So this fight just had a bunch of dramatic, crazy punches throughout the entire thing. This is also a fight where you had no idea how it was going to end, as Hawk is just taunting Takamura throughout the entire thing. We then see Coach Kamigawa once again struggle with the fact that there's not much he can do while coaching a boxer at the world level. As I said earlier, they kind of threw out the realism with this fight, so then we see Takamura go Super Saiyan and start spinning around Hawk in a super dramatic, almost Naruto-esque fight. Which is really the vibes I got from this battle, is the Naruto versus Sasuke fight at the Final Valley. The Takamura versus Hawk fight really did feel like the climax of a series. It felt like the last 7 episodes that were spent developing Takamura as a character were rather to switch Takamura to the main character, to get us just as invested in Takamura's fight as we would be in an Ippo fight. And that, along with the fact that we are now watching world champion level fighters, is why they threw out all the rules that they have developed up until this point. And then there were many points in this fight where you really did think Takamura was going to lose. I mean, after all, he was getting played with at certain points. The entirety of episode 22 is an emotional roller coaster where you really don't know what's going to happen because they did such a good job at replicating the suspense of a real boxing match with the anime qualities of a shonen. Now, I know I'm not narrating the fight play by play, so obviously I'm missing a lot of things here, but I have to talk about the end of episode 23. This anime successfully replicated one of the most iconic manga panels at all time, and one that probably got a lot of people into Hajime no Ippo. But once again, a beautiful triumphant moment like this will happen, and then Takamura will be losing. It was just back and forth the entire fight, and there are a few fights in Hajime no Ippo that I felt like went on a little too long. Ippo kept getting knocked down, and he'd get back up and he'd get knocked down, and it's like, okay, just kind of get the fight over with. I don't think anyone felt that way when watching Takamura versus Hawk, unless you felt very strongly about them straying away from the realistic boxing that Hajime no Ippo is known for. But me, and I'm sure many people watching this, felt the same way about this fight, and they just wanted it to keep going on and on. But it obviously did not, and after a very satisfying ending, it was all over, and we got another great scene. So that is why I believe Takamura vs. Hawk to be one of the most iconic fights in the series, despite it being in season 2. Let me know if I missed anything, and let me know if you agree, and make sure to subscribe if you are new, because once again, we are trying to hit 3,000 subscribers. I'll see you later.